Nobody expected to find this buried under 2 miles of solid ice. It's not a secret military base, and it's definitely not a natural geological formation. There is one discovery so terrifying it forced scientists to abandon their research station overnight. Join us and let's discover the newest revealed mysteries of Antarctica. Let's go!
Number 11. 800,000 years of climate data locked inside a single tube of Antarctic ice. In Antarctica's ice, time is stored physically. Every year, a fresh layer of snow compresses into the layers below, trapping microscopic air bubbles that preserve a chemically exact snapshot of the atmosphere at that precise historical moment. Ancient air, ancient chemistry, ancient climate, sealed in crystal. Drill down deep enough and you don't just sample the past, you hold it in your hands. The oldest complete ice core ever retrieved from Antarctica extends 800,000 years into the past. That single ice cylinder contains an unbroken atmospheric record spanning 8 complete glacial cycles, 8 ice ages and their corresponding warming periods, 8 back and forth oscillations of the entire global climate system, all compressed into recoverable physical layers. The air bubbles trapped in the deepest sections of this core contain molecules from an atmosphere that existed before modern humans walked the Earth. Analysis of those bubbles, measuring carbon dioxide concentrations, methane levels, temperature proxy isotopes, dust particle composition, produces a detailed, continuous portrait of how Earth's climate has naturally behaved across nearly 1 million years. And the pattern that emerges from that record is profoundly disturbing in one specific way. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere have never, not once in 800,000 years of documented geological history, risen as rapidly as they are rising today. The current rate of atmospheric change sits completely outside the natural variation range captured in the entire ice core record, not near the upper edge, outside the edge. Scientists operating under the Beyond Epoca project are currently drilling toward the 1.5 million year boundary, attempting to recover even older ice, to look further back into the geological record and determine whether current atmospheric conditions have any natural parallel whatsoever. The deeper they drill, the more isolated the present moment appears in the data. But the deepest ice, compressed against ancient bedrock, still vibrates with something that first appeared in a 2018 drilling report and has been waiting for an answer since the very first second of this video. Number 10. Life in total darkness, the bacteria that survived 1 million years sealed under ice. Lake Whillans sits beneath roughly 800 meters of West Antarctic ice. Small, dark, seemingly unremarkable in comparison to the giants above it in this story. But in 2013, a drilling team punched through the ice ceiling with sterile instruments and dropped sensors directly into the water column below. The scientific expectation was minimal microbial presence, perhaps trace signatures of ancient biological activity, if anything at all. What the instruments pulled back up shattered that assumption completely. The water samples contained dense populations of bacteria, far denser than any model had predicted. Not trace residue, not dormant spores, living, reproducing colonies of microorganisms in water so completely dark it had never received a single photon of sunlight, ever. The estimated age of the water ranged from 120,000 years to potentially over 1 million years in isolation. These organisms hadn't just survived the darkness, they had adapted to it, evolved inside it, and built a fully functional ecosystem around chemical energy, processes that derive energy from dissolved minerals and compounds in the rock, with no solar input required whatsoever. A biologist analyzing the recovered samples noted that this ecosystem operated independently of light in any form, existing in isolation for a period of time that dwarfs all of recorded human history. The implications fracture every foundation of our biological assumptions. We built every food chain model, every ecosystem theory, every evolutionary framework around the sun. This lake eliminates the sun as a prerequisite for life. And here's the element that nobody discusses openly. The drainage network connecting these lakes is real, active, and flows toward the ocean. Whatever lives in that water can potentially travel with it into the open sea. And what that means for ecosystems, for contamination, for biological boundaries, has not been fully addressed in any public scientific brief yet.
I'm going to ask you a simple question. Are you a naturally curious person? If you're watching, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. This space is made for people like us. To ensure you're always part of this community and receive all our latest discoveries, you just need to do one thing: subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to stay connected with us. Okay, now that you're part of our Legion of the Curious, let's move on to the next item.
Number 9. The transparent blooded fish that rewrites the rules of vertebrate biology. The Southern Ocean encircling Antarctica is among the most biologically extreme marine environments on Earth. Water temperatures drop to minus 1.8 degrees Celsius, below the standard freezing point of seawater, kept liquid only by its salt content. Any organism attempting to survive here faces a thermodynamic problem that appears, from first principles, completely unsolvable. Evolution found a way around it. A violent, strange, almost unbelievable way around it. The Antarctic icefish, family Channictheidae, has no hemoglobin in its blood, 0. Every other vertebrate on this planet uses hemoglobin as the primary mechanism for transporting oxygen through the circulatory system. Icefish eliminated it entirely. Their blood is transparent, literally colorless. To compensate, their bodies evolved massive, oversized hearts, unusually large total blood volumes, and extremely wide capillaries, architecture that allows oxygen to dissolve directly into the blood plasma and circulate without any protein carrier system at all. They're running on a completely different biological operating system than everything else with a spine. This adaptation came at severe costs. Icefish require dramatically more energy to pump their oxygen-dilute blood. Their hearts are proportionally enormous relative to body size. They cannot survive in water above 5 degrees Celsius. Even brief thermal exposure above that threshold kills them within hours. They exist inside a biological window so narrow that small temperature shifts can collapse entire populations before any adaptation response is possible. And yet they have survived here for millions of years. They evolved inside the cold, the dark, and the pressure, and those conditions became the only ones under which they can exist. The ocean around Antarctica didn't just adapt life, it stripped life down to its structural minimum and rebuilt it from fundamentally different materials. The same principle applies inside the sealed lakes beneath the ice, where organisms went even further from the familiar, sustained by chemistry alone, waiting in total silence for someone to drill down and find them.
Number 8. Lake Vostok, the largest subglacial lake on Earth, sealed for 15 million years. Picture a lake larger than Lake Ontario. Now bury it under more than 3 kilometers of solid, compacted ice. Cut off every connection to sunlight, to surface oxygen, to any form of atmospheric exchange, and seal it there for approximately 15 million years. That is Lake Vostok, and it is real, it is liquid, and something is living in it. Located beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet, Lake Vostok stretches roughly 250 kilometers in length and holds an estimated 5,400 cubic kilometers of liquid water, one of the largest freshwater reserves on the entire planet, locked in permanent darkness. The pressure from the ice above is approximately 350 times standard atmospheric pressure. That pressure, combined with geothermal heat rising from below the bedrock, keeps the water permanently liquid despite temperatures hovering just above the freezing point. Scientists first detected the lake in the 1990s, when satellites recorded an anomalously flat section of ice surface directly above it. Still water below produces a leveled ice sheet above, and the signal was unmistakable once they knew what to look for. In 2012, a Russian drilling team finally made direct contact with the lake water after decades of boring through the ice above it. The results overturned expectations immediately. The water wasn't sterile. DNA analysis of recovered samples showed genetic signatures for bacteria, fungi, and microscopic organisms, evidence of a living, reproducing, chemically active ecosystem sealed in complete darkness and maintained entirely by geothermal energy. If life functions here, under these conditions, for this long, then the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn suddenly look very different. But even Vostok's revelations pale against what a smaller lake directly beneath the ice revealed when scientists finally cracked it open.
Number 7. The Pyramid Peaks, Antarctica's most misunderstood geological formation. Satellite imagery of the Antarctic Peninsula triggered genuine global controversy when the images began circulating broadly online. Rising from the ice in sharp, precise geometric form were mountain peaks that looked, unmistakably to untrained eyes, like ancient pyramids. Four-sided, symmetrical, eerily angular against the flat white horizon stretching around them. The images spread immediately across social media and conspiracy platforms. The speculation was rapid and intense. Were these artificial structures? Evidence of a lost prehistoric civilization buried beneath the Antarctic ice. The idea gained traction across forums, YouTube channels, and tabloid science outlets before geologists could formally respond. Their response, when it came, was definitive. and the geological explanation was in its own right as fascinating as any conspiracy. These formations are nunataks, rocky peaks that protrude above the surrounding glacier, shaped over millions of years by a mechanical weathering process called freeze-thaw erosion. Water penetrates the natural fractures in the exposed rock. It freezes, expands with enormous force, breaks off material on multiple faces simultaneously. When this process operates on 3 or 4 sides of a peak under consistent pressure and orientation conditions, it produces a shape that approaches geometric perfection, a pyramid. The symmetry isn't evidence of construction. It's the direct result of physics operating across millions of years without interference. One geologist examining the formations noted that stable conditions over extended time periods reliably produce regular, repeating geometric shapes, not despite nature, but precisely because of it. The human brain is hardwired to detect patterns and assign intention behind them. A symmetrical peak in ice reads as deliberate design, but the ice doesn't operate on intention. What the ice does respond to, what it responds to violently, is heat. And the source of that heat in West Antarctica isn't the sun above, it's the rock below, and it has been building for a very long time.
Number 6. The hidden mountain ranges and deep trenches buried beneath the ice sheet. Strip the ice off Antarctica entirely and you'd find a continent almost unrecognizable from what satellites see today. The flat white surface you know from photographs is a lie. Beneath it lies a shattered, complex, violent topography. Deep canyons, soaring mountain ranges, vast interior basins, and subglacial trenches that plunge far below the level of the ocean outside. The Gambert Sub-Mountain Range sits buried beneath nearly 3 kilometers of East Antarctic ice. Its peaks reach 3,400 meters in height, fully comparable to the European Alps, and yet no human eye has ever seen them directly. They are completely invisible from above. Radar surveys have produced 3-dimensional maps of these hidden peaks, revealing ancient glaciers flowing through subglacial valleys between summits that have been sealed under ice for approximately 35 million years. In West Antarctica, the geological violence goes even further. The Bentley Subglacial Trench descends 2,555 meters below sea level, making it the deepest point on Earth not covered by liquid ocean. If you removed the ice tomorrow, seawater would flood the basin immediately, drowning entire subterranean mountain ranges and transforming large sections of West Antarctica into an underwater archipelago overnight. This hidden topography isn't only a geological curiosity, it controls the entire behavior of the ice sheet above it, determining where glaciers form, where they channel their mass toward the coast, and how quickly they release ice into the ocean. The shape of the bedrock is in many ways more important to predicting Antarctica's future than surface temperature measurements. And that bedrock isn't smooth, it's scarred, crushed, and compressed in regions consistent with ancient prehistoric impacts. The rock itself carries wounds, and those wounds feed directly into a system that is already under pressure from every direction simultaneously.
Number 5. McMurdo Station, the southernmost functioning city on the planet. On the southern tip of Ross Island, roughly 3,800 kilometers from the geographic South Pole, there is a town, not a field camp, not a research post, a functioning, inhabited town. McMurdo Station is the largest human settlement on the Antarctic continent, housing up to 1,200 people during peak summer operations and maintaining a year-round skeleton crew throughout the brutal polar winter. It has residential dormitories, research laboratories, a fire station, a fully operational power plant, a sewage treatment facility, warehouses, a greenhouse producing fresh food for residents, and a bar. It also has a working ATM installed by Wells Fargo, making it the southernmost operational cash machine on planet Earth. Life at McMurdo operates under the framework of the Antarctic Treaty, a 1959 international agreement designating the entire continent as a scientific preserve. No military operations, no resource extraction, no permanent territorial claims by any nation. Environmental controls are absolute. All waste is treated on site and removed. All fuel consumption is tracked. Every chemical used in the field must be documented and recovered. Nothing gets left behind. McMurdo functions as the primary logistical hub for dozens of simultaneous research programs operating across the continent year-round. Ice core drilling teams, atmospheric monitoring networks, marine biology survey vessels, seismic sensor arrays, all coordinated from this single isolated settlement on a volcanic island at the edge of the world. The data flowing out of McMurdo feeds into the climate models used by every major scientific institution on the planet, and those models consistently, over the past 5 years, have been revised in the same direction: faster deterioration, worse projected outcomes, earlier timelines than the previous revision predicted. The data is getting harder to look at, and one particular dataset pulled from the ice itself reveals something that puts every current projection into a historical context that makes the present moment look unlike anything in the record.
Number 4. 138 hidden volcanoes, the secret volcanic field buried beneath Antarctic ice.
Shift to the opposite side of the continent, and the ground is doing something entirely different down there. Under West Antarctica, radar surveys have now identified at least 138 volcanoes buried beneath the ice. Not ancient, cold, extinct ones, active, generating geothermal heat right now in real time, underneath kilometers of frozen pressure. The tallest of these buried peaks reach more than 900 meters above the subglacial bedrock, roughly the height of 3 Empire State Buildings, with their summits completely sealed up to 3 kilometers of glacial ice above. When scientists first processed the raw radar imagery, the data looked almost too structured to be natural. Rows of sharply defined pyramid-shaped rock formations appeared in tight clusters at the base of the Transantarctic Mountains. The patterns were too regular, the spacing too precise. Early analysis suspected instrument errors or data artifacts. Then deeper processing confirmed what the readings were actually showing: a vast hidden volcanic field. One researcher describing the findings noted that the consistency in shape and spatial distribution was unmistakable. These weren't random geological anomalies, they were real volcanoes. At the center of this system stands Mount Erebus, the southernmost active volcano on the planet. Inside its summit crater, a persistent lava lake has remained continuously molten for over 1 million years. 1 million unbroken years of liquid fire burning in total silence beneath Antarctic skies. That heat doesn't stay in place. It radiates outward through the bedrock, rises toward the base of the overlying glaciers, and warms the ice from underneath, making it more fluid, more mobile, more prone to sudden, accelerated movement toward the coast. That hidden heat source explains a mystery that puzzled scientists for years, but every explanation here immediately creates a worse problem than the one it solved.
Number 3. Blood Falls, the glacier that has been bleeding since 1911. Since the first expeditions reached the McMurdo Dry Valleys in 1911, explorers have reported the same profoundly wrong sight: a thick, dark crimson stream pouring from a crack in the Taylor Glacier, flowing steadily over white ice like blood from an open wound that never closes. The early scientific teams had no framework to explain it. The color was wrong, the behavior was wrong. Nothing about it matched known glacial hydrology or Antarctic geochemistry. It became known as blood falls, and it remained an open scientific question for nearly a century. The leading hypothesis for decades attributed the red color to algae blooms in the water. Then direct chemical analysis finally revealed the actual mechanism, and the truth turned out to be stranger and darker than the original mystery. Deep beneath the Taylor Glacier, completely sealed from the atmosphere, sits a hypersaline subglacial lake that has been isolated for an estimated 1.5 million years. The water inside is nearly 3 times saltier than seawater, a concentration so extreme that it remains liquid even at temperatures far below the normal freezing point. It is also saturated with dissolved iron. When this ancient pressurized water forces its way upward through fractures in the glacier ice and contacts oxygen in the open air for the first time in geological history, the iron oxidizes in real time. The water turns crimson before your eyes, the same electrochemical reaction that turns iron red with rust, playing out on a glacier in the middle of Antarctica. But the scientific value of blood falls isn't the visual spectacle, it's the window it opens. Every liter escaping that crack is a direct sample from a completely sealed chemical system, one that has preserved ancient atmospheric chemistry, ancient microbiology, and ancient isotopic signatures that nothing else on Earth can replicate. Scientists keep sampling it, and each analysis adds another disturbing layer to a timeline that predates almost everything we know.
Number 2. Wilkes Land, the crater bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs. Deep beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet, more than 1,600 meters below the frozen surface, there is a scar. Not a small one. A circular formation stretching nearly 480 kilometers across. To make that scale real, lay it over the western United States, and it covers the entire state of California with room to spare on every side. Satellite magnetic data detected the structure decades ago, but it was only through combined radar surveys, gravity measurements, and geophysical modeling that scientists reached a definitive conclusion. This is an ancient impact crater, intact, perfectly preserved beneath the ice for hundreds of millions of years. The site is called Wilkes Land, and what researchers confirmed there is staggering. The magnetic signatures reveal a dense, circular formation with anomalous readings completely consistent with a massive cosmic collision. The bedrock beneath the site has been deformed by a force so extreme that the geology itself is twisted, compressed, fractured, and reorganized by an impact energy that defies easy comprehension. A geophysicist summarizing the findings described it plainly as clear evidence of a planetary-scale collision right here. Now here's the number that stops everything cold. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico, The one that triggered the mass extinction event that wiped out every non-avian dinosaur on Earth measures roughly 180 kilometers wide. The Wilkes Land structure is estimated at nearly 3 times that size, 3 times larger. Whatever fell from the sky and struck Antarctica created an impact event potentially far more energetic than the one that ended the age of dinosaurs. And the timing isn't coincidence. The estimated age of this impact aligns directly with the end Permian extinction, the catastrophic event that eliminated 96% of all marine species. But what hit this place wasn't the only secret buried inside the rock.
Number 1. The meteorite graveyard. Why Antarctica holds 90% of all meteorites ever found. Antarctica has yielded more meteorites than every other continent on Earth combined. Over 45,000 individual specimens have been recovered here, nearly 90% of the entire global total. That number isn't a coincidence of geography. It's physics and ice mechanics operating in perfect, terrible harmony to build the most efficient space rock collection system on the planet. Meteorites fall across Earth's surface at roughly equal rates everywhere. On other continents, they land, rust within decades, sink into soil, get buried by vegetation, or erode beyond recognition before anyone finds them. In Antarctica, the sequence is completely different. A meteorite lands on the ice, gets covered by snowfall, and gets carried inward by the slow flow of the ice sheet. When the ice encounters a bedrock mountain range, the flow is forced upward. The brutal Antarctic wind then strips away the surface layers through a process called ablation, and the meteorites, carried up from depth inside the ice, emerge at the surface, concentrated, preserved, and chemically intact. The sub-zero, hyper-dry environment keeps them in extraordinary condition for millions of years. Some specimens recovered here are 4.5 billion years old, dating to the literal formation of the solar system itself. Others arrived from Mars, physically from Mars, blasted off the Martian surface by ancient asteroid impact, drifting through interplanetary space for millions of years before landing here and being preserved perfectly by the ice. One of the highest concentration zones for recovered meteorites sits directly adjacent to the Wilkes Land crater site, and researchers believe the ancient impact history of this region explains why space rocks cluster here with such density. The ground remembers being struck. The ice above it keeps the receipts. But the ice also captured something far stranger. Something not falling from space, but rising from the rock below.
Still curious? Then don't stop now. The next mystery is already waiting for you. Just click the video on screen. I saved it just for you. See you there, curious one.